In the early 1950s, the favorite engine of hot rodders was the Ford Flathead V8. It was a must-have for anyone addicted to performance. It was cheap, fast, and easy to work on. The standard Chevy V6 was much too slow to interest anyone with a need for speed. We'll see how Chevrolet's revolutionary small block V8 upended Ford and turned things around and helped to turn the 55 through 57 Chevys into automotive icons. The Woodward Dream Cruise attracts over 1 million people to suburban Detroit every year. It's a throwback to the glory days when Detroit iron ruled the road. This event started in 1995 as a one-day cruise. It's grown into a nearly week-long celebration that culminates on a weekend in August. People come from all over the country to see the cars they loved and dreamed about when they were young. It was a time when American muscle was unbeatable. Detroit was producing affordable cars that everyone wanted. Young people took their cars to the streets to see what they could do. The drive-ins were the center of the action. Kids would work on their cars all week and show up to show off at local hotspots on the weekend. Street racing was often a result. It was fairly innocent fun, a good way to blow off some steam and have a good time. While the Dream Cruise is a much tamer version of the wild days on Woodward, it's a great opportunity to remember the days when woodwarding meant racing. One of the most remarkable stories from that era can still be found under the hood of nearly every Chevrolet, the small block V8. This engine made the 55 through 57 Chevys famous and has been powering GM's muscle cars ever since.
Things changed when Chevrolet came out with a V8 engine overhead valve in 1955. They were very scarce. You couldn't find the engines. Everybody wanted them in their cars. That's how it started off.
When this engine came out in the early 50s, it transformed Chevrolet by turning it into a performance leader. It's impossible to calculate what the small block V8 has meant to Chevrolet and to everyone interested in high-performance automobiles.
The biggest deal in 1955 was the fact that it was so simple, and yet it was powerful, compact, easy to package, and in fact, everybody loved it because of the quality, the reliability, and the durability of the small block.
It was the most reliable, lightest, the strongest, and most powerful engine of its time. It's become a lot more powerful since then.
The highest horsepower rating in 1955 on our 265 cubic inch engine was 195, and now the base engine is at 400 in our 2005 Corvette.
The seeds of its success were planted right after World War II. When the war drew to an official close aboard the battleship Missouri on September 2, 1945, the country was poised for a period of unprecedented growth. Over the next few years, the American economy took off. Times were good, and people believed that the future would be even better. To prime America's interest in the future, General Motors sent out a fleet of Flash Gordon-like space cruisers. These futureliners caravanned across the country and set up an industrial carnival to extol the virtues of atomic power, jet propulsion, stereo recordings, microwave ovens, and television. It was a time when people were hungry for anything new.
For men having invented the wheel, speeded it overnight, faster and faster, turned it to his needs, and mushrooming overnight were new structures to satisfy man's new wants, to break his desires.
Crowds flocked to the GM Parade of Progress to see how their communities had changed and to hear about the future. Industry was celebrated and progress was glorified. Consumption was God. After years of an economic depression, followed by wartime shortages, the message of leisure and better times found a receptive audience. The world was changing.
Plastic upholstery, a listening library, windows made of coal, air, and water, and even a telenews machine to bring your daily paper right to your easy chair. Fantastic? Maybe.
More women were working outside of the home and adding another income to their growing families. These families bought everything. From Main Street to Wall Street, business flourished. People had money to spend. The auto industry was in its glory. Car assembly lines were humming. Wartime rationing had ended, and everyone wanted a new car. The end of the 40s saw the first all-new cars in nearly 10 years.
Yes, Buick is Cupid's own ally.
While they hadn't really changed much in 10 years, they were new.
As a symbol of dependability, durability, and
After the war ended, it took automakers a few years to reconvert their production lines to civilian manufacturing. When they were ready, the public turned their pent-up demand into record sales. The 50s would be especially good to General Motors. The automaker would build 35 million cars, nearly half of everything sold.
That gown, by the way, is not standard equipment with the car, even though it matches the old Futuramic styling.
As the world's largest corporation, it became the symbol for American business leadership. But people were also leery about its power.
People on the move, alerted to the currents of an exciting century.
GM's president, Engine Charlie Wilson, discovered this when he was vilified for reportedly saying what was good for General Motors was good for the country. He actually said, "For years I thought that what was good for our country was good for General Motors, and vice versa." Wilson's unguarded remarks earned him the name Old Foot in the Mouth, but his managerial abilities earned him respect. President Eisenhower asked Wilson to become the Secretary of Defense. Ike had been impressed by Wilson's leadership of GM's immense war production effort. Under Wilson, GM's industrial army of 500,000 employees had made thousands of planes for the Navy, hundreds of B-24s for the Army, a quarter of all the tanks, armored cars, and airplanes built in the United States, half the machine guns and carbines, 2/3 of the big trucks, and 3/4 of the Navy's diesel engines. Historians credited the industrial strength of America with winning the war. Wilson had played a large role.
Uh-oh. Look what he thinks he's going to give her for a wedding present. All wrapped up in white...
Starting in 1945, he led the reconversion of GM back to car making.
Does she know this beautiful creation has a new improved valve and head engine?
Before leaving the country, Wilson made progress on one last huge problem. The big, boxy Chevrolet was boring, and sales were not growing.
Well, keep looking, Toots. You'll find plenty to delight you.
It was considered to be a car for old people. The older generation had made Chevrolet the sales leader since 1927, but if it didn't start to appeal to young people, it would fall behind. Chevrolet's main rival was Ford. High school parking lots were filled with Fords. You just weren't cool if you didn't drive a Ford. Fords were the cars to be seen in. Hot rodders and others liked Ford's 8-cylinder engine. Chevrolet was stuck with the old Blue Flame 6-cylinder. Wilson knew it was just a matter of time before teenagers convinced their parents to slip behind the wheel of a Ford. Once Chevy lost a customer, it was nearly impossible to win them back. This would be a disaster for GM and Chevrolet. Chevrolet made nearly 75% of GM's profits. Wilson had quickly transformed GM into the arsenal of democracy to beat the Axis. Now he knew he must help Chevrolet gear up to beat GM's new foe, Ford. He told Harlow Curtis, his hand-picked successor, to create, in 2 years, not the usual 5, a brand new winning car. Curtis knew they needed a miracle worker to perform this feat. Curtis bypassed seasoned GM managers and plucked a young hotshot from the ranks, Ed Cole.
Products, all down the line.
He asked him to do the impossible.
Clear back in engineering.
In many ways, Ed Cole was like GM's other leaders. Male, white, Protestant, American-born and bred. But most were company men who wanted to fit in. Cole wanted to make a difference. This was first seen on the farm where he grew up. He was an unrelenting worker who loved to tinker. He got up before school to milk cows and hurried home to repair radios, a pace he maintained forever. He wanted to be a lawyer, but gravitated to engineering. He did so well at college that Cadillac offered him a job before he graduated. Cole's friends saw him as a go-getter, at times ruthless. He was very driven at work and play. He always had to be the best. During World War II, Cole worked on GM tanks and then went on to become a key figure at Cadillac. At only 36, he became Cadillac's chief engineer and developed a new V8 engine. During the Korean War, he converted an Ohio vegetable warehouse into a tank plant. In just 7 months, it went from beans to bulldog tanks. GM leaders were very impressed. They remembered this when they needed someone new to turn Chevrolet around. GM gave Cole the job and told him to use performance to turn the tide against Ford. Almost overnight, Cole increased Chevrolet's staff from 850 to 3,000 engineers. People clamored to work for him. Cole placed engineer Harry Barr in overall charge of the V8 engine and the passenger car chassis. Barr and Cole had worked together at Cadillac. Cole wanted to create a working man's version of the Cadillac V8, but as dependable and economical as Chevrolet's old 6-cylinder. This was a time-consuming task, normally requiring years for designs and experiments, but Cole used time others would waste. He quickly had his ideas roughed out. He devised a speedy way to cast the small block V8. Thin wall casting made it stronger and lighter than other engines. Cole knew eliminating weight would help performance. His prototype was 50 pounds lighter than the Ford V8 and 40 pounds less than Chevy's old 6. The V8 was his calling, not a job. He knew it was vital to the long-term success of Chevrolet and General Motors. Cole built a prototype small block engine in his garage and slipped it into his '53 Chevy. He loved to show it off. Cole knew he had to put this extraordinary engine into an equally revolutionary body. Harley Earl was just the person to design it. Earl was known for his unique, eye-catching designs. By the late 30s, his styling began to dominate the industry. But Earl was always trying to top his last act. Earl began to wave his wand over the new Chevrolet. Ideas were tried and rejected. His design team was given free rein. Ed Cole made sure engineering didn't interfere with styling. Both men wanted the car to be low, light, and powerful. Earl thought long and hard about the Chevrolet's shape. Each GM line had a strong identifier, like portholes on Buick, and of course fins for Cadillac. Earl decided to combine it all for Chevrolet. It all started to come together. It began to look like the final car. After several false starts, GM leaders saw a model they liked. It was much slimmer than the older Chevys or Fords. The Chevy had scalloped doors, graceful curves, a Ferrari-like egg crate grille, wraparound windshield, a nipped beltline, and of course, chrome. The fact it looked like a baby Cadillac was no surprise. As he set his sights on knocking Ford out of the showroom, Cole secretly hoped it would also steal sales from GM's luxury car. Cole and Earl knew they had a great car, inside and out, but they had no idea that it would cause a commotion. When the first 1955 Chevy rolled off the assembly line, it was destined to make an impact. In just 2 years, they created a masterpiece which erased Chevrolet's old stodgy image. It was a remarkably styled car with a milestone engine. To Chevrolet, this car meant youth, speed, and lightness. The '55 Chevrolet was like nothing else in Detroit. Chevrolet had spent $300 million to create this new car. They threw in another $2 million for promotion. Public relations turned the streets and showrooms of America into festivals. Dealers gave away balloons, perfume, pens, pot holders, and keychains. It was a celebration of progress and achievement. Chevrolet promoted the car's technological innovations, its smooth ride, stability, handling, and strength. The car's great looks and performance got attention, just as planned. The car was christened the Hot One. Ads implied that the car was in tune with the jet age. Power and speed were the wave of the future. Putting a large engine in an affordable passenger car finally gave the average person the ability to purchase a fast car. By the mid-50s, a populous form of racing, stock car racing, or NASCAR, was feeding the growing interest in speed. Ed Cole felt it was time Chevrolet got involved. The 1955 Chevy was the perfect car to tear up the track. Cole transformed production cars into high-speed racers. Soon, his Chevy set out to conquer the stock car circuit. For Chevrolet, 1955 was a year to remember. The V8-powered Chevy became known as the Mighty Mouse after a popular cartoon. The cars racked up victory after victory and were real crowd pleasers. Ford Motor Company took notice. Ford wasn't willing to stand by and let Chevrolet take all the glory. A showdown was just around the corner, the Darlington 500. During qualifying heats, it looked like victory could go either to Chevrolet or to Ford. But during the race, Chevrolet pulled ahead of its rival and won. Chevys went on to win 13 more races that year. The 1955 Chevy was making its mark on the track and in the showroom. While the car was aimed at Ford sedans, Chevrolet had more ammunition, this time in the form of a station wagon, the Chevy Nomad. Ford had 42% of the station wagon market. Harley Earls wanted to create a rival. The new Chevy wagon was inspired by the Corvette Nomad show car. Earl liked the show car's name and sleek roofline, and when he merged the design with the new Chevy body, the two-door Chevy Nomad wagon was born. Motor Trend magazine called the Chevy Nomad one of the best-looking cars of the year. Editors said it was the marriage of a workhorse and a sports car. But the Nomad failed to make a dent in Ford's station wagon sales. Most people wanted a wagon with 4 doors. Ford was also ready for the passenger car battle. It refused to surrender without a fight. In 1955, Ford counterpunched with its own modern V8, a new 6-cylinder engine, a freshly styled Crown Victoria, and its sporty Thunderbird. Chrysler wasn't caught off guard either. In 1955, the automaker came out with its trend-setting new style dubbed the forward look, which was really all about the rear end in big fins. With all these choices, buyers flocked to the showrooms. It was a record sales year for the entire industry. Total sales reached about $65 billion. Chevrolet sold nearly 2 million cars and built the 50 million GM car. The celebration was on, but Ed Cole and Chevrolet weren't ready to rejoice. The 55 Chevy beat Ford in the showroom, but just barely. Chevrolet sold only 73,000 more cars than Ford. A small but sweet victory. Chevrolet would have had a larger margin if they had avoided some initial quality problems. In order to stay ahead of Ford, Chevrolet had to improve its quality and show the public that it clearly was the better choice. The 1956 Chevrolet finally had its engineering problems under control, but it needed another publicity boost. In the fall of 1955, Ed Cole came up with an idea to prove that the hot one was even hotter. He staged a dramatic run up Pikes Peak. He asked famed Chevrolet engineer and race car driver Zora Arkus Duntov for help. They prepared 2 cars for a run up the Colorado Mountain.
And he's off.
The cars tore up the mountain.
The new Super Turbo Fire V8 engine shows its worth. 205 horsepower working smoothly at every altitude.
The small block V8 was showing its worth. This 205 horsepower engine had ample power for sudden spurts. Duntov broke several records in the 11,000-foot climb. His 2-door Bel Air finished with the best time, just over 17 minutes. This time was 2 minutes faster than any Ford had ever achieved. The publicity was great. New ads trumpeted the Mighty Mouse. But this only spurred the competition. Other automakers scrambled to show their racing prowess. At Daytona, Chrysler's Plymouth division introduced its new Fury. They even took a run up Pikes Peak, but it was too little, too late to influence sales. Chevrolet remained the sales leader for 1956. Customers were lured to the dealerships, some kicking and screaming, to see what changes Chevrolet had made. People especially liked the reworked front end. The egg crate grille was gone. Customers said the cars were now more appealing.
From front to back, it's a car any man can be proud to drive.
All the changes made the car look longer and lower. In keeping with the times, there was more chrome. Buyers loved what they saw, and they did more than just look. Despite a sales slump throughout the entire industry, Chevrolet outsold Ford an average of 20,000 cars a month. Chevy had changed its styling, Ford hadn't, and people wanted what was new.
Way to pick up my wife.
I'm lost, I guess. I don't know how to get back. Gee, this is a beautiful car.
Chevrolet, 1956. As I said, I'm on my way to pick up my wife.
Oh, these are nice.
Here's another car door, but unfortunately...
Instead, Ford launched an ad campaign emphasizing safety.
Behind the car window myself, and I'll let my assistant Judy swing the bowling ball for us.
Buyers felt safety was boring. Chevrolet strengthened its first-place hold over the entire industry. In 1956, 26% of all American cars sold were Chevrolets. Largely because of the success of his car, Ed Cole was named Chevrolet's general manager. He said, "If I felt any better about our program, I think I'd blow up."
Retractable. Believe it or not, it has a steel top, and when you
In
pull a little button, it
1957, the
automatically
world
disappears
loved
into the trunk.
Lucy, and Ford hoped buyers would love its new cars.
No,
The
silly.
automaker called upon the comedian for help.
There's a salesman
Ford spent
demonstrating
$400 million to beat Chevrolet and make sure Buick didn't move up from its third-place perch. Its Skyliner with the retractable hardtop was never a big seller, but it got attention.
The roof is falling off.
The whatchamacallit is making like a jackknife.
Lucy, come home. You're delirious.
The whole car is turning itself inside out.
Now look, honey, get a hold of yourself.
The trunk just swallowed the roof. Well, we never felt more like singing.
Ford even used Fred and Ethel to tout the benefits of the new Fords. In the late 50s, bigger meant better. That's what Ford had to offer. Compared to Chevrolets, Fords were longer, wider, heavier, and cranked out more horsepower. They were trying to be seen as the solid, sensible car.
So gamble on down, the going is great. Just pick you a 6 or a Thunderbird 8. Come try Ford. Come try the new kind of Ford.
Folks, there's nothing like a new Ford to make you feel young again.
But not all 1957 Fords were memorable for the right reasons. The Edsel was doomed from the start. The car was too expensive, and many people thought it was ugly. People said it looked like it was sucking a lemon.
And elegance never seen before in any car, and presents them in 18 different models.
Quality was a problem too. Parts literally fell off before people could get their new cars home. The name Edsel became synonymous with failure. But Chrysler, a venerable also ran, couldn't be discounted. Their large fin cars were now the styling leaders. In 1957, Chevrolet wanted to remain the sales leader, but it didn't have the resources to introduce a completely new car. The best they could hope for? Divine inspiration for some cosmetic changes.
Well, it looks as though we've got the wrong picture. This must be something for an airlines convention.
Yes, sir. I'll walk.
Engineers extended the nose and tail, making the 57 Chevy look 5 inches longer than previous ones. The car looked lower because of smaller wheels. It had sharper lines, more details. A combination bumper and grille. And of course, fins. Once again, it was dubbed a baby Cadillac because it looked like a Cadillac Eldorado. The 1957 Chevrolet wasn't considered to be that year's styling leader, but Cole tried to lure buyers into the showrooms with a plethora of options. The cars could be loaded up with everything from GM's massive accessory parts bin. Harley Earls called Cole the best shopper among GM's executives. For added performance, Ed Cole added fuel injection. It was considered a costly engineering toy, not a practical option at that time. For $500, it pumped out more horsepower, but because it was so new, it wasn't reliable. The 1957 Chevy was a great-looking car and destined to become a classic, but Chevrolet was outdone by Ford in the showroom. Chevrolet sales were down 6%, while Ford's were up by 10%. Ford only sold 140 more cars than Chevrolet. It was close, but for the first time in 30 years, Ford outsold Chevrolet. Cole got a double blow when a factory-sponsored racing ban was announced. Automakers felt speed was bad for their image. The racing ban, coupled with Ford's new styles, spelled trouble for Chevrolet. Cole shifted his gears from performance to design and developing a new model. He wanted the top sales spot back from Ford. With the help of singer Pat Boone, Chevrolet introduced a new body style for 1958.
Hey, Joe, how about some lights? Now, did you ever see anything as new and as fresh looking as that?
It's so new, it's almost too new to be true.
The new Chevys were longer, lower, and wider. The dual-pod parking lights were inspired by B-47 bomber jets. Compared to other automakers, Chevy styling was very restrained.
Lowness of design, dramatic big car width and length, the most fabulous automobile of the year. Plus,
but a sales slump was on. Detroit produced about half the cars it did in 1955.
The proof of any car is in the driving. And here at the wheel of a Chevrolet, just like you'll find in the showroom, thrill driver Joey Chitwood. He puts the 58 Chevrolet through a test more grueling than most cars get on
Chevrolet couldn't get its new car off the ground. Chevrolet sold 700,000 fewer cars than it did in 1957. Ed Cole's and Harley Earls' milestone car had seen better days. But Cole and Chevrolet quickly got back on the fast track to the future.
Chevrolet in 58, the newest of the new.
By the 1960s, America was changing, and Cole transformed Chevrolet to keep it in tune with the times. Where cars had become bulbous and overblown in the late 50s, they were now slimmer and sleeker. A new generation was in power, and tastes were changing. Marilyn Monroe had been the symbol of the 1950s, but America's new sweetheart was the young, slim, and elegant Jackie Kennedy. The new, more youthful Chevrolets reflected this shift. The car's success consolidated Chevrolet's sales leadership over Ford and propelled Ed Cole up the ladder. On October 30th, 1967, Ed Cole reached his real goal. He became the president of General Motors. He said he didn't know he had a chance at the job. Many people were surprised that Cole became president because he was a rebel in an organization that seemed determined to weed out original thinkers. He made friends with astronauts and other things that you didn't expect a GM executive to do. His enthusiasm spread throughout GM. But in the late 1960s, the American auto industry had to contend with high-quality German and Japanese imports. Then, new federal safety and emissions regulations were introduced. It was a trying time for Cole. In the 1950s, there was really only one competitor, Ford, and the government was your ally. The certainties of the 50s had disappeared. He tried to meet the new challenges, but his rebellious enthusiasm and intellectual drive finally wore out its welcome with the board of General Motors. In 1974, Cole retired and sought other challenges. In 1977, he bought a major portion of Checker Motors in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The company only made 5,000 taxis and passenger cars a year. To some, these cars looked like Cole's pride and joy, the 1955 Chevrolet. He wanted to dramatically increase production. But Cole didn't live to see this become a reality. On May 2, 1977, he died when his small plane went down near the Kalamazoo airport. He was on his way to Checker. Ed Cole's memory lives on. Today, the 55 through 57 Chevys, with the small block V8, are some of the most sought-after cars by collectors. They keep attracting new admirers. The small block V8 has been the mainstay of Chevrolet for more than 40 years. The Mighty Mouse has been refined, but never outdone. It will still be powering Chevrolets well into the 21st century.